Hello, hello. Thanks for stopping by. This is Bushido Blade 2 for the Sony PlayStation, and I'm playing this disc on a straight-up PlayStation 1. I'm using the same disc that I had way back in the day, and it's working for me just fine. What I can't find is the memory card that I had all my save data on that was connected to this game. So functionally, I'm starting over for this review. There are plenty of unlockables in the game in terms of characters. Now I don't have them all. So Bushido Blade was developed by Lightweight and published by Square in 1998. This is a 3D fighting game, and the focus of the game is on a weapon as opposed to punches and kicks. You can certainly run, jump, and you change your stance, and you swing a weapon at your enemy. The goal, of course, is to cut down your opponent. Now, this game was released before analog sticks were a thing with the system. If you look at the manual, the image of the controller doesn't have analog sticks. That's how I'm actually playing this one. I'm playing it on an original controller without the analog sticks, and I'm really starting to remember what it was like in the early days when those sticks didn't exist yet. The pad of your thumb, it takes a bit of a beating at times, or at least mine does in any case. This game gets intense at times, and I find myself really gripping the controller tight, just trying to get through a stage. I think it's kind of intense because of one of the main mechanics of the game, and it's the fact that you can one-shot your opponents, which means you can get killed with one strike as well. Sometimes it's more than one hit, of course, if you don't get a clean shot, and sometimes you can get an arm damaged when this happens, and basically one of your arms becomes unusable. It'll just hang by your side until you get killed or until you finish the stage. The story they have here, it's relatively forgettable. Basically, we have two warring houses that have been against each other for generations. Yeah, there's text to set this backstory, and there's also voice acting, but the dialogue in this one and the delivery, it's reasonably poor. Personally, I just ignore it. There are a bunch of characters you can choose from, some from each of the houses, and there are also a bunch of unlockable characters that you can reveal after you accomplish different feats in the game. If you beat the game straight out, you're going to get an unlock. That's probably the easiest one to achieve. Just get all the way through the game. You'll get one of the characters. Most characters get to choose from up to 6 different weapons. A spear, a polearm, and 4 different swords. Each weapon is going to have different attacks. There are definitely combos. There are some high attacks, low attacks. I think probably the most important to get your brain around in this game is that you have to change your stance. You adjust your stance, and when you do that, your offensive attacks shift. So it becomes this sort of odd rock, paper, scissors type of experience as you try to understand what your opponent's stance currently is, and try to switch your stance to compensate. You get 6 characters starting the game to choose from. There's 3 on each house, and there's a possibility to unlock up to 18 characters in the game. That's triple the starting roster, but that actually takes some time to unlock. And like I said, you also have 6 different weapons, but not all characters seem to be able to use 6, only 5. Usually I think that means it's 1 spear or 1 polearm usually drops off the list. I'm not positive on that though. But with 5 or 6 different weapons, and 3 stances available for each, you get a lot of different offensive moves you can possibly run through. Because you can get killed with 1 move, with 1 swipe, it actually kind of brings into attention a potential problem with loading times. Anytime you can die quick in a game, that's where my brain goes anyway. It's a CD game, and obviously data has to be read. But in this one, for the gameplay part, the loading times usually aren't a problem. You can die, and you can restart that immediate fight really quick, a couple of seconds. And you're probably going to have to do that a lot as you learn how to fight. The story mode arranges these fights into waves. You have, I think, 6 different stages. And usually you start a stage, and you have to beat a wave of ninjas, just one after the other. I think there's 7 to 10, usually. It's kind of hard to keep count of these things because it all happens so fast. But I'm pretty sure the first stage is less than 10, and after that, it seems to be 10. After you defeat the ninja, you get to a person, a character, a boss of some kind. Usually there's some useless banter between you and the boss, and this is the part that I usually skip because I can't stand it, and then I get into the fight. Just beat the person to get to the next stage. What I think is great about the way the game is sort of orchestrated is when you defeat a ninja, you immediately go on to fight the next ninja. We're talking a second. It's pretty much immediate, and the fighting just continues. You kill one, now you turn, kill another one. If you have an injured arm at this stage, your injury is going to stand until the stage is over, or you die, of course. If you kill, you advance really fast to the next one. If you die, it's different. When you die, you get an immediate replay of the fight you just lost. so you can see yourself die again, but it gives you a different camera view. The camera sort of spins around and shows you dying differently. Then you, of course, can choose to rematch, and it loads right away. So if you get killed, you're playing again in just a few seconds, and it's great to not have to wait. It seems to be just enough for you to calm down a little bit and take a breath to get back into the fight. Now, if you beat a boss, you also get this camera view. You kill a boss, it immediately replays a different view of you killing that boss again, and I think it's a really nice touch. It lets you relish in the fact that you just killed the boss, and it shows it to you in this slightly cinematic way. I think it works. Now, somewhere in the stages, you're going to meet an ally from your house. It'll be this little cutscene that, once again, I don't care much for the cutscenes. This actually happens twice per run-through. And what happens is, some ally from your house shows up and you get to play the next stage with them. They'll have to kill some ninjas and then a boss. If they die, you jump back in where they left off. But if you manage to make them survive, it's possible you unlock those characters as playable characters when you beat that run-through. Also, once through each run-through, you appear to go against an enemy that has a firearm instead of a sword. So you're going to have to run around a map and avoid their gunfire before they shoot you. I think it's different, and it breaks up the swordplay a little. And it also feels nice when you beat the guy with the gun. There are 2 different schools that you can play through as, and you end up with different bosses at the end, depending on which house you play. That's the story mode, basically. There's also a versus CPU mode, where it's just you pick a character and you try to beat all the other characters in the game, one at a time. There's also a training mode, which is nice if you want to practice with a weapon. There's also a versus mode if you want to play against a friend. This game also has special moves, although I am not good at dragging up a special move in the middle of a fight. And you also get sub-weapons, which might be a second sword or something you can throw. It's different per character, really. If you throw something, you can pick it up again and use it, but when you do that, your opponent can also pick it up, so you kind of need to be careful. On top of all this, you can also select a different game style for these levels before you start. You can change from a 3D mode to a first-person mode. It becomes like playing the old Punch-Out game in a way. You can see these green lines on the screen that sort of show where your position is, and you're looking through them at your opponent. It's disorienting at first, but overall it does play okay. Left and right on the controller in the 3D view, though, that becomes up and down on the controller when you're in first person, which takes a little bit of adjusting. It's a surprising change, I think, and honestly, until I pulled this one out of the archives, I never even tried this option. It's definitely different, just maybe not as intuitive. I think this is a fun one, especially if you like fighting games, and it's probably a bit of a change for others. Focusing on weapons and stances is pretty unique to gameplay, I think, and you can play this one as a result. You can play it as a button masher, or you can try to take your time and really focus on your attacks, and I think it works for both types of players. Well, that's all I have today for Bushido Blade 2 for the Sony PlayStation. If you like the channel, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that stuff. Thank you for stopping by to take a look, and I'll catch you on another video.